I would like to call to order the February 1st, 2021 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see everybody on tonight. First up is the approval of our work session agenda, which you all have copies before you. Do I hear a motion to accept the work session agenda as presented?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Shue, a second by Commissioner Honeycutt to approve the work session agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. And that motion passes, and we move now to discussion items. First up, item 3.1. We are very happy to have with us tonight Sheriff Van Shaw to talk about the first quarter state of the Sheriff's Office. Welcome, Sheriff Shaw.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, and as well as the other commissioners, thank you for having me. Again, I come before you today just to give you an update on a few divisions within the Sheriff's Office and some statistical information to go along with it that I think everybody would be interested in hearing. So I've prepared a brief PowerPoint. I think Lauren has it and will put it up for us. So we'll go ahead and begin with the first slide. I want to speak to you about the detention center. Of course, we're operating in that COVID environment. So our daily population currently remains at about 200 per day. It fluctuates about 10 per day. That's down from a normal pre-COVID population of about 340 is what we were typically housing in our detention center. The good news is that our COVID protocols have been very successful to date. We have not had any positive COVID cases within our detention center. We've implemented a number of protocols that we feel like have been highly effective. And of course, as we know, anyone can contract that virus at any time, but we're working diligently not to allow that to happen. The one downside is many of our inmate programs are very, very limited due to COVID, and bringing individuals, volunteers from the community into the detention environment. We want to limit that as much as we possibly can, but we're looking forward to the day when we can resume all of our programs. I've also been coordinating with Aaron Shue, the Cabarrus Health Alliance, on a vaccination plan for our inmates at the detention center. That will be coming up as that group, per the governor's plan, comes available, and we'll be doing that at the detention facility for any inmate that wants to receive the vaccination. They're certainly going to be able to have that available to them. One of the things that we've also that came to us in 2020 was new state jail standards, and they have provided additional detail as of late. We've always had a suicide watch program within the jail per state standards. We now have a special watch consideration that calls for anyone that displays or provides information related to a previous mental health issue goes on a special watch until they're able to see a mental health professional. Typically, it's virtual. We've had to provide additional services in that area, but we're adapting to it. The checks on those inmates are twice as frequent as the general population. So we've put those into place and feel really good about where we are moving forward with that as well. The next slide, excuse me. An update on where we are with our body-worn cameras. Our policy development is complete. All the equipment has been purchased, and we're literally receiving that equipment daily. This also includes the upgrades to the in-car cameras as well. We have a field testing program in progress. So we're looking at how it's installed in the car, working out any kinks, how everything works together, and how they're set up to make sure before we start that deployment, we've worked as many problems out of that process as we can, because we will be changing out a number of cameras, as well as holding training for the cameras prior to those being issued and implemented in the field. So right now, the way everything looks is a deployment of our body-worn cameras is scheduled for March of this year. More so in the first half of the year than it will be in the latter half of first half of March instead of the latter part of March. So that's an update of where we are with body-worn cameras. With the next slide, I wanted to bring you up to date. This is always an item of extreme interest in the public, and that's our records division, and specifically the gun permit and concealed carry process and where we are. Currently with gun permits, we're within the 14-day turnaround. And again, that 14-day turnaround is mandated by the state, but we're not having any trouble meeting that as of right now. We've implemented a number of things that we can do to expedite things, as well as implemented some temporary things that utilizes some additional personnel in areas that frees up the records employees to be able to concentrate on moving applications through the process. Our concealed carry permits is right now, it's a 90-day wait for an appointment. I can tell you when it was at probably the height of submissions, we got out somewhere in the neighborhood of almost 6 to 8 months. 90 days or less is is our goal and where we want to be, and we're within that. We also reached out to individuals to let them know when appointments cancel. So we try to move individuals up that wait list as quickly as possible when we do have a cancellation. We do that through email. Just to give you some ideas, in 2019, you can see there we had 2,169 gun permit applications, and in 2020 we had 5,392, so a considerable increase. Concealed carry permits as well saw a little bit more modest increase, but still almost up to 4,000 concealed carry permit applications that were received. So far in January, it looks like the trend is going to continue in that regard. We've processed 414 gun permits and have received 384 concealed carry permits for this year, and that is up over our January statistics from last year. So just gives you an idea. Folks are able to get those. We're working within all the state mandated timeframes, so it's good and remarkable. Our employees are doing a super job of making that happen amid COVID, because in this process we have to fingerprint individuals, so we're having to come in close contact with the public, schedule those appointments, wear PPE, and do it as safely as we possibly can. So it's been quite a challenge. So next slide. Just to briefly touch on, I get quite a number of questions from the community about drug investigations, especially that we know we are continuing to have to respond to overdose, and there's been a small increase in 2020 over 2019 with the amount of Narcan utilized in the county, and we received those statistics through EMS. We initiated 105 drug investigations during 2020. This does not include vehicle stops. That these are investigations that were initiated based on information received. We were able to take 46 illegal weapons off the streets here in Cabarrus County, and we seized drugs that had a street value of $857,100 $194. The drugs that we are seeing most frequently, again, is heroin, fentanyl, typically mixed with heroin, and now we're seeing cocaine and cocaine mixed with fentanyl, which also raises a lot of concerns about the possibility of increased cocaine-related overdose, but it's mainly related to the fentanyl that is being used. And we continue to see methamphetamine. Those are our most serious drugs. We still do deal with other lower level drugs to include marijuana, but the detectives that are assigned to the Vice Narcotics Division are working hard, and I think making a significant dent in the drug traffic that we know is coming through our county sometimes and is operating in our county sometimes. So those are the updates I have for you. I've certainly take any questions related to this or any other question you may have about our sheriff's office.
Van, one question I noticed on your permitting for weapons and concealed weapons. I think I've read some articles in the newspaper about other counties that were having a very difficult time meeting those deadlines. And so I'm very pleasantly surprised to see how well you're doing. You know, you're not big on tooting your own horn, but I think that's quite a positive statement about you and your office and your staff, that you're able to keep up, I think, much more efficiently than our other neighboring counties, if the information I've received is correct. Is that about true?
Yes, there's a number of counties that are struggling with it. It's been a team effort. We've utilized some personnel from different areas, some auxiliary personnel, where we could limit. One of the things we did that helped dramatically and let the folks in records continue to process applications was we opened up a booth at the front of the building. So if you were just merely coming in to pick up your permits or pick up your concealed carry permit, you could do it without even having to enter the building or go through the checkpoint. Folks really like that because they're in quick and out quick. They don't have to empty their pockets and go through the magnetometer, and it keeps our folks upstairs in records working. And so it's just being able to do that and provide a little bit better efficiency in the whole thing. And I can't say enough about how people have embraced continuing to do their job even amid the COVID complications, and you know, to suit up each day in PPE and do fingerprints of everybody that comes in. I mean, it's just very admirable, their dedication to their job.
Well, we appreciate it, and I'm sure the citizens appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
I just have one question. Are there certain calls over this last 10 to 12 months during the COVID that you see are increased over past years, certain types of calls?
We've looked at our statistical data. I wouldn't say that any particular call is up. We obviously were concerned about domestic violence because people are locked up together a lot more than normal. We saw periods where there were upticks, but nothing that's showing a significant increase whatsoever. You know, we know that there are mental health implications related to COVID. We have had periods where we've seen an increase in suicides, but again, it would be for a definitive period of time. We feel like coincidentally, but that number is remaining the same. So I think folks are doing a really good job at dealing with some of those frustrations, you know, that come along with that, some of the stress that comes along with it. But by and large, you know, the residents of Cabarrus County have been outstanding in being reasonable and understanding, and certainly understanding of the job we have to do and working with us. So I don't have anything really but good news to report on that side.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sheriff Shaw, with the just have a question on the drugs that were seized. Is that common in your seizures, or are you seeing an uptick in the higher level drugs, or are we maintaining the same? Or, fentanyl, you said, is a big issue. Is that on the rise, or how do we best understand the impacts of those drugs in our community?
Well, one of the things that has been happening, I mean, the most prevalent drugs that we see here in Cabarrus County are the heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine. And all of those are clandestinely manufactured, typically outside of the United States, and imported in, and then smuggled and distributed to other parts, including our state and our county. We have seen certainly an uptick of the amount that are out there. We think part of it is again, people aren't out and about as much. There seems to be a little bit more demand than we've seen in the past. It's not a huge uptick, but it's there. The fentanyl issue is that fentanyl being a very dangerous drug in itself, and that it takes very limited amounts to cause a person to go in respiratory distress, is being used as an additional additive to heroin and now to cocaine. Primarily, we had only seen it in heroin. And so an individual, the end user, not knowing the amount of heroin is present, may use what they felt was a normal dose, but it has fentanyl in it, and that may be a actual lethal dose. Just so you also know, anytime we have an overdose death in the county, we're notified, and we also do a joint criminal investigative and vice narcotics joint investigation to try and track back the source of those drugs. So we work on that as well. But I hope I answered your question. I know I kind of jumped around, but we are seeing an increase. Probably the biggest increase we're seeing right now is in methamphetamine and cocaine. Heroin is kind of leveled off, but we are conducting more so that was our focus in 2020, and is going to remain to be our focus in 2021 and moving forward.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff Shaw.
Thank you.
Sheriff, I just have a quick question, and it seems pretty amazing that there hasn't been a transmission of COVID inside the jail through the however long this has been going on. So you guys, really hats off to keeping everybody safe over there, including staff. I mean, for everybody, that is pretty amazing. You mentioned the vaccine, and a quick assumption would be that they won't go out to get a vaccine. Somebody will come in the jail to give the vaccine. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So CHA will be on site when that group is eligible for the vaccine. And we, because we have a medical facility inside the detention center, we'll provide them space to set up. And not only that, we talked about a follow-up plan, because some will need, of course, the second dose, and they may still be in the detention facility. So we'll be setting up times for them to come back and do that. And we're also going to be tracking and helping with those individuals that maybe were in the detention center with their first vaccination. Now they're out, and there needs to be that follow-up to ensure they get their second vaccination as well. So we're trying to put together a good plan that makes sure no one falls through the cracks on that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff,
Yes, go ahead.
I've been trying to jump in. I just didn't want to be rude, override anybody. But Sheriff, this is Lynn, and I have two questions, both related to staffing. I think you reported to us within maybe the last 3 or 4 months that your staffing was pretty much up to par, and actually, didn't really have any vacancies. Is that still standing true?
Yes, sir. It is. Currently, I only have one vacancy on the sworn deputy side. And we have applicants in the process and about 4 detention officer vacancies, which, we do have turnover. We do have situations where we lose someone that to retirement, or it might be a medical issue, or as I like to say, it could be love. They fall in love and relocate to another area. And but we're doing an exceptional job, I think, our training and recruitment division, in getting out there, and we're recruiting right now from a 9-county area, where we're going to as many community colleges that will allow us to come in under COVID, do our recruitment pitch, try to encourage them to move to Cabarrus County and buy a home and have a good career and be a resident of Cabarrus County. And we've had a lot of success. And so I'm real proud of that. And that means that we're able to provide a better level of service for the community as well because of being fully staffed.
I agree, and that's kudos to you on that, because that's been had been in years past sort of an issue that we definitely, through your efforts and your team, have overcome that. And my last question is in reference to the detention center. You said we had currently 200 inmates there, and we normally have 350. Do you fluctuate your staff based on the number of inmates, or does the staff relatively stay the same?
The staff stays the same. We, of course, have staff that have to go to training. They may be out sick. That's one of the things we battled with COVID, because we have had staff that had to quarantine or did in fact get the virus and had to be out those 14 or more days or had to deal with it. So depending on what's going on, the staff, not only, we have to maintain a minimum staffing based on jail standards, but we also have to provide our transportation, support of the courts in moving those individuals that have court dates back and forth. So there's a lot of moving parts. I will tell you that, on any given day, you're not going to have 100% of your staff there just because of varying reasons. So it's not something we can really back away from based on the state standard of what our detention center is rated for. We must maintain that staff for that rating constantly. So we're rated, to give you an idea, we're staffed at the ability to hold approximately 425 inmates. Okay. The facility itself is capable of handling a couple of hundred more. We just don't staff to that 615 level. But because we're rated at that 425 right now, that's what we have to maintain.
Well, that's great, and I appreciate your leadership and your guidance on the way you've handled everything. You've been a good sheriff, Van, and I appreciate all you do for us.
Thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that.
Sheriff, are we currently housing any state inmates?
Yes, Blake, we sure are. We do participate in the state misdemeanor confinement program, where the state reimburses us for every state inmate that's serving out a misdemeanor sentence. And so we do that. I think we're running right now approximately in the 40 inmate range, somewhere around in there. It fluctuates based on their release dates. And also within the state system, we're trying to minimize, in conjunction with Department of Corrections, any movement. There's some facilities I don't want to get an inmate from. And, so that number may go down a little bit, but it will possibly come back up. We're very choosy in what we voluntarily take from other areas. And that's been part of our success. Is if we need to pull back on that, we'd rather do that than deal with what may happen if we had a breakout within the detention center.
Okay, good. I thought we were, or I knew we had in the past. I just didn't know if COVID had impacted that. And as a side note to my other commissioners, one of our legislative goals that we worked on is to advocate to the legislature for full reimbursement for the cost of housing the state inmates, because currently it's there must be some discrepancy, and I don't know what the number is, but that is one of the legislative goals for our fellow commissioners across the state.
Thank you. Any other questions for the sheriff? Sheriff Saul, we very much appreciate you joining us tonight and taking the time for that update. It sounds like things are going well, and we're glad to have the opportunity to hear from you, and as I am sure the public is as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also appreciate the support. Obviously, the support by the commission and meeting those needs that we have financially are vitally important. And I can't say enough good things about this commission and how supportive you've been of my office. And I just really appreciate it. And I appreciate you letting me come before you and update you on what's going on.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. We move now to item 3.2 from Infrastructure and Asset Management. We're delighted to have Kyle Billifer to update us on the Emergency Medical Services Headquarters project.
Good evening. I also have Jimmy Lentz on here, and once we get through kind of an update of what is taking place in the project, Michael Miller will stand up and we have an exterior samples board to try to walk you through. Typically we'll do that in person, but I'll have to be doing that virtually. Over the past couple months on the EMS headquarters project, we've had a lot of in-staff and obviously design team meetings, whether that be with the actual architect or the different MEP or civil engineers. We've met with the ITS group and the EMS group and worked out kind of all of our, what I would call our audio visual and security issues. So location of cameras, location of card readers, operational pedestrian traffic throughout the building, and then obviously which rooms require some type of audio visual, and specifically based on the elevations and the dimensions of those rooms, what that audio visual will be. So we've gone through that and passed that back onto the design team, and that'll go into the DD drawings that helps us kind of cost this out. We've had a meeting with the civil engineer and looked at all the cross sections of the rock. And in fact, we initiated a contract with Concord Engineering, who did a little bit more rock study on us to make sure we could get the right structural class on the building, which it'll be a Class C building. There was some thought that we could get to a B, but we'll end up with a C based on what we found. Mr. Marshall and myself have challenged the design team to shift a couple things around to avoid some larger cross sections of rock, which we think would be costly. We've evaluated the 2 stormwater BMPs that'll be on site. So there will be sand filters on site. So by the end of the year, we'll have several of those with all the construction we're doing. We have a meeting this week with EMS staff to go over the elevations of the fitness room and some of the training rooms. We've discussed with the City of Concord Transportation about would we need a traffic impact analysis, and they've thankfully told us no. So that's one thing that we can scratch off the list of needing. And there has been some discussion with our civil engineer and the DOT about the type of improvements that would be needed on Cabarrus Avenue, and Mr. Marshall and myself will continue to work through those. And just to kind of give you an update on the schedule, the DD drawings, so that not your construction drawings, but kind of your design drawings right before they go to CDs, are being turned over to our construction manager at risk, who again is Vinoy McFarland. Those will be transferred over to them probably about the middle to end of this month. And that's when we can start kind of honing in on the scope of magnitude on obviously driving our schematic costs either down or up, depending on what's showing on those drawings. I do have Jimmy Lentz on here. Jimmy, do you wish to add anything?
Good afternoon, folks. This is obviously a first for us. We're learning as we go here, but the level and area of involvement that Kyle and the entire IEM department, ADW, as far as our designers and everything, have let us be involved to really personalize this to meet our needs, to me has been just kind of overwhelming and very impressive. like I said, this is a first for us. We're learning as we go. But with our involvement all the way down to the staff level, we are very involved in planning a building that is going to meet the needs of our EMS service for many, many, many years to come. And just to be honest, kudos to Kyle and the IAM department. I know it's nothing new for them to take on a big project with the county, and this is not their first rodeo, but they're allowing us to be involved to the level we are has really been nice, and it really makes it very personable to us in building a structure that will fit our needs.
I did attach a picture of this exterior board to your meeting minutes, and there's also some renderings. Obviously, this would be much easier if we were in person, and I think you can all remember when we did it for the courthouse, is I was able to show you an image of the building and what it would look like, and then point to each of these exterior surfaces and kind of show you what you would have. But I did want to kind of show you, this is the type of wood cladding and panels that we're using. It's very similar, the material, to what we're doing at the courthouse. And these are 3 different types of bricks, and they look like two different shades, but there is actually 3. The accent brick that will go through the wall is just a slight hair darker to try to make that lighter wall pop a little bit more. And then obviously up here you have all your metals. So we obviously have storefront doors, and then you have an aluminum cladding panel that's above the entrance. And I think most of the commissioners, probably not Commissioner Strang, has seen all the images that we showed when we first started this project of this rendering, but I'll be happy to get this board to any of you if you want to see it. But this is these are just the overall samples of what's going on. We've kind of narrowed it down pretty darn quick. Does anybody have any questions on specifically the exterior materials?
No, Kyle, I think the beauty is you and Michael have to maintain this building, and your involvement through the design process is huge for the taxpayer over the long haul of this building. So I think Jimmy said it well. If they're involved as the end user, and you guys are involved as the entity that has to maintain the building, all you're doing is making us look good, and we appreciate that, because that building's going to be here a long time. It's going to be a nice looking building, and it's going to provide a lot of service for the citizens of this county. So just thanks for all your hard work. I think that's going to look terrific, and I guess I just wanted to just make sure we didn't skip over what Jimmy said, because I thought what he said was very important, of having input on the building, and I'm glad to hear that that's happening.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Kyle? I had one question. Kyle, you talked about, when you're talking about the rock, you said that we would have a Class C building as opposed to a Class B. What does that mean exactly, and what are those differences?
There's different types of how you put the building together. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know.
Can everybody else mute themselves?
So there's different classes to how you build the building, and it kind of, a lot of it depends on the geotech and what's in the ground in terms of the structure and what it can hold and what it can rate as. So there was a thought process that we might be close to a Class B. It's not that much different than a Class C, but after looking at it a little bit, and we haven't even gotten the final report. I just know what the guys told me while they were in the field. I basically pulled over and asked him, "Hey, how's it looking?" And he shook his head at me. So I took that as we'll end up as a Class C building. So that's kind of the construction itself, meaning not having concrete roofs and things like that. It's because it can't hold the weight.
Yeah, so primarily nothing to do with the actual quality of the building, but rather the method of construction.
But it's not like when you're talking about property management, when you're talking about Class A building space or Class B. No.
Right.
Jimmy won't let me put them in a Class C building. So no, it's more about the structure and how it's built and what it's rated for.
Great. Any other questions on the EMS project for Kyle? Well, if not, then we'll let him proceed on to the courthouse project update.
Okay, Lauren, bring that presentation, please. And you can scroll down. Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys some aerials and some different pictures to show you. Again, these are a month old. So this was obviously them putting in their number 4 of 7 total footings. All of the footings and all of the foundation walls, everything is in the ground now. In fact, they've already moved on to the underground MEP on what used to be the Means Avenue side. So on the west side of the structure, which you're kind of sitting there looking at right now, if you're staring at the governmental center, all of the underground MEP is already in the ground and starting to be covered up. So we're well ahead. You can scroll down, Lauren. You're well ahead of where you were here. That's obviously, they call it the A line, but that's what goes along Church Street. So that's your northern face right there. Scroll down, Lauren. That shows them waterproofing a section of the foundation wall near the tower crane. If you actually look at the left-hand side of that picture, that is in fact the actual tower crane. So that is the support for the tower crane. And to give you an idea, as of today, when I called over there, they were about 62 to 64% done with all of the waterproofing for all these foundation walls, which is based on the amount of rain and water we've had. And the working conditions has been very, very lucky to get that much done. So can you scroll down more? And they wanted to put on there the Happy Holidays sign. It's already been taken down, but it was put up by Messer and county staff right before the holidays. And I can give you a couple other updates. We're knee deep in submittal review. So what that means is every type of piece of equipment or every type of conflict, everything is on an automated system. It's cloud-based, and I'm notified of that. So every time an architect submits something or Messer asks a question back or any of the subs, I get an email that tells me I need to go look at it. So typically what I do is I go find submittals or actual product data on the actual equipment that's going to be put into the courthouse, because I'm sure you understand we can't bid it out and say we want this make and model. We can only do that when the board approves certain ones. And if you remember, I went to you all and asked you for 7 or 8 specific pieces of equipment that we wanted in that courthouse based on the level of efficiency that they have at our other locations, and also to get us towards standardization, which is anybody in my job strives for that. So all the other stuff, I have to wait and see what it comes in and make sure that it meets our needs. So I take those submittals and I download those, and then I share them with our infrastructure and asset management team. So we spend a lot of time, the guys that are actually going to be working on this, and more specifically their supervisors or kind of crew chiefs, are reviewing these. So our HVAC crew chief has already reviewed exactly what type of cooling tower is going to go in there, and he knows exactly how the motor is going to be driven. He knows exactly where it's going to go. And Messer was kind enough. We have done several high-level MEP meetings with them. They're 4-hour meetings where we meet with their people that will actually be installing this, and we're understanding exactly where it's going. And then they'll pull up a model or a computer screen, and they will walk us through the path. And it's called it's BIM modeling is what it is. And basically, it allows my staff to see exactly where the path of conduit or chilled water pipe or everything, and how it's going to go through the courthouse behind all the walls. Because if you deal in maintenance, typically when you build something and then you go to fix it, it's not easy to get to, and that's what costs money. So we're able to see exactly where all these will be, and it's enabling the staff here to get a comfort level of working through that. So we have another one of those model walkthroughs this week. So it's literally like walking through the courthouse in a 3D fashion and seeing all the nuts and bolts and the guts of it, not so much where the chair is and where the courtroom is, but where all the stuff that feeds that. So it's become very important to us. And we've gone through 22 different submittals for light fixtures, and we're getting 4 of those sent to us in samples so we can make sure that, you know, you don't have to have a tiny little hand to be able to get the light bulb out. Those type of things that bite you in the butt somewhere down the line, that's what we're trying to avoid. So we're doing a lot of that in-house. The other major update about the courthouse is that we kicked off our public art committee meeting, and Commissioner Hsu and Commissioner Kiger were involved with that, as was County Manager Downs, and that happened last week. We had what turned into be about a 2-hour virtual meeting with our public art committee, and that's the group that's going to assist with writing the RFQ and actually hiring the artists to prepare the public art that would go in the lobby, which is a very large space, and we're feeling that with it being so large, we need some type of public art to be suspended. So we're working through those details and creating a narrative based on the art committee's suggestions, a narrative of what the art needs to be. And this is way out of my comfort zone, so I don't want to speak incorrectly about it, but you do need to provide a narrative of what type of message you're trying to get across with the piece. And then obviously we would have several finalists, and then the committee would vote. So at a certain point, I will be coming back to the board with a proposed budget for the public art, as well as a rough draft of the actual RFQ, specifically focusing on what the narrative of the piece is. I'm not going to bore the board with details of when the submissions are due and all that, but specifically a narrative of what the message is that's trying to be communicated via the art. And if Commissioner Kiger or Commissioner Hsu want to offer any insight to the meeting, they're more than welcome to.
I thought it was a very engaging, very informal meeting, Kyle, and you orchestrated it all so well. And it also gave me a better insight because of all the examples that the lady from out at Clear Springs, what's her name, Sarah Gay or whatever, anyway, she offered some really good examples. And I, in particular, as I mentioned in that meeting, liked the things that I seen from the one architect, lip sync or whatever, whoever they were. And there's so many different things that you look into as far as a calming effect and as far as something that would not want people to sit there and stare at. And so a lot of things go into it. You know, it's not just something you just throw up and, you know, and say, well, there it is. But we're looking at the maintenance of whatever item it might be, you know, how long it's going to last and those kind of things. So it was a good meeting, Kyle, and I was glad to be a part of it. And I'm sure you'll let us know when the next meeting comes up.
Yes, sir, of course. We've worked, myself and Michael have worked with the UNCC Construction Management and Facilities Management Master's Program, and we do certain podcasts for them. And one of the things they asked us for was to kind of give them some projects for value engineering this year. And one of them that I chose was public art in buildings. And they really reach out to a lot of different entities that have public art and kind of give us the pros and cons, because there's certain materials that you can build these things out of that can turn out to be maintenance issues, specifically dust and cleaning. And also, you know, there's kinetic art, which is art that has the motors in it that constantly moves. And I was able to kind of get some information back from this group and to get the students' report prior to us having this meeting. So as we were going through, we probably visited about 60 different sites virtually, meaning on the internet, and looked at different pieces of art that we feel are the same magnitude as what we were looking at. And, you know, a lot of those right off the bat, I could be like, yeah, we're probably not going to go down that road. But it definitely gave us an idea of what to think about. And I think it also brought up some concerns we have with that is a public lobby going into a pretty high security area, and it's not a place that we want a lot of stopping and just taking pictures and hanging out, because that's not going to go well with a line of sight. Right on the other side of that wall is our queuing area, or our high security, ballistic resistance area for the sheriff's department. So we had a lot of good conversation, and I think we'll end up having another meeting to kind of get through. Probably we only got through half of what we wanted to, but I think we've opened up everybody's eyes and kind of are all on the same page. So we'll be moving forward with another meeting, and then I'll be in front of the board probably in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay, any additional questions for Kyle? All right, thank you very much, sir. We move now to item 3.4. We are happy to have Debbie Brannon with our information and technology innovation report.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the February Innovation Report. My favorite part of the meeting, where I get to share with you the good things that are happening in Cabarrus County with innovation, and also the book that we're going to be listening to this month with our employee book club. This month, we're listening to How Full Is Your Bucket? With this book, we're going to find out how even the briefest interactions affect your relationships, your productivity, your health, and your longevity. This book is organized around a simple metaphor of a dipper and a bucket, and it's grounded in 50 years of research. It will show you how to increase the positive moments in your work and your life while reducing the negative. So I hope you'll join me in listening to this book this month. It's only 1.5 hours long. I actually listened to it twice this weekend while I was cleaning house, so it's a very easy to get through, and it'll help you discover powerful strategies and engaging stories that inspire lasting change. So each month, I report on innovative ways departments are delivering services to our citizens in support of the county's strategic plan. Today's innovation report is on the work that takes place in IT to lay the foundation for the success of those projects. Today, we're going to hear from Jason Cook, supervisor of our technical architecture team, and Ryan Ward, supervisor of our network team. These guys and their teams do amazing work to enable innovative approaches for our planned projects and the unexpected challenges we face. From everyday business operations and planning for future facilities, as you've heard earlier from the sheriff and from Kyle, to E911 and responding to emergencies like the current pandemic. These teams work behind the scenes to ensure we continue to have access to the very best technology. They provide a solid digital infrastructure that allows us to build innovative solutions that align with the county's strategic initiatives. And while I'm introducing Jason Cook, I'll let him go ahead and share his screen. First, we will hear from Jason Cook. He's a second-generation Cabarrus County employee. Jason started working for the county as an intern when his dad, Lieutenant Steve Cook, was working for the sheriff's office. His dad is since retired from the county, and we hope Jason will stay with us until he retires. Perhaps his daughter Aubrey will become a third-generation employee. And here's Jason to present the report on the technical architecture services.
Thank you, Debbie. I'll get my screen share. All right. Hope everyone's having a good afternoon. Like Debbie said, my name's Jason Cook, currently the technical architecture supervisor. I've been with the county for 13.5 years. Started out as a help desk technician back in 2007, and just kind of slowly worked my way up. We also have Jackson McWaters. He's a systems administrator. He's been with the county just a little over 2 years. Chris Morley, he's another systems administrator. His 1-year anniversary will actually be the 3rd of February, so he's been here almost a year. Eric Trevathan, he's one of our PC tech specialists. He's been here 8 years. And Andrew Dexter, he's also a PC tech specialist. Has been here 5.5 years. So real proud of our team. We've definitely had some challenges this year with COVID and everything. So I'm going to touch on some projects in 2020 that we've accomplished. So we have some enterprise infrastructure upgrades. The storage migration is a pretty big project. Took several of us working together, several man hours, several hours into the nights, early mornings when, most of the, Cabarrus County employees were, off the clock. So we, didn't have any downtime. We also had to work with Cabarrus County school system and work with Kannapolis City Schools also during the storage migration. And I'll touch some more on that later. We did migrated approximately 230 virtual servers from our existing storage to our new storage we bought. We also did a VMware host upgrade, which consisted of 24 physical hosts or servers. We upgraded the OS on those to make them more up to date, more up to speed, and more secure. We did a Teams integration from Skype, which with the COVID, we really kind of just dropped the ball and started rolling with the Teams integration, and it, seemed to be perfect timing with that. We decommissioned the M1000E blade enclosure. It was in production for, I believe, 10 years, if not a little more. So it had been out there for a while. We've upgraded it with some a lot newer hardware, more efficient hardware. So we were kind of glad to get rid of that. We had a tablet replacement for Cabarrus County Transportation. They replaced all the tablets in the vans for the route match upgrade. We also did had a big two-in-one device replacement for DHS. We replaced the iPads that the Department of Human Services used to use to transition into a new software called Traverse, which is kind of they use for client tracking and stuff. Had a software upgrade for our Viper 911 phone system. We did it for the Sheriff's Department, KPD, Concord Police Department, and also our backup system. Upgraded the servers to the latest version of software, and also all of the 911 workstations. Implemented Power DMS, which is a for the Sheriff's Department, and for EMS, which is a policy management software. They were able to upload all their policies online, and they can just assign them to the employees now. They go online and they can sign all the policies and keep track of them that way, and gets rid of a lot of the paper copies. Also worked Board of Elections preparing this last year 2020 election. All right, so I'm gonna kind of touch on the device rollout since the start of COVID. We've rolled out around 600 devices for county employees. Initially, we drove all over the county, getting every device as we could once we heard that employees were going to start working from home. So we through memory and what we could, ordered hard drives. There's 5 or 6 of us working together, imaging devices at one time to get as many devices out as possible, so the county's employees can continue serving the public. We have 4 greeter stations, 2 for the public out at DHS to come in, connect a PC to a monitor, and have a Teams session going so the public can talk, and we can still serve the public's needs. 1 to assist with tax needs, and we have 1 in the ITS lobby to assist employees or when they need any kind of have IT questions. We have a PC in the parking deck booth to facilitate tax collection payments. When the building closed down to the public still able to drive through the parking deck and pay their taxes. Currently in the process of updating EMS vehicles with 42 new devices. We had a big device rollout for BOE to prepare for the elections. We had 45 iPads and 90 laptops for office needs, 4 early voting sites and the polls on the election days. And we currently have 40 more devices to complete deployments for the entire DHS Employee Services Division. So kind of going to touch base on our big storage infrastructure upgrade we had. We currently have the Dell Compellent. We've had it for actually as long as I've been with the county. And then we've switched to HP Nimble and Cumulo. And I'll kind of show you guys what it looks like and kind of some of some of the dashboard that we see, so you can kind of get an idea of what it is. So you have front panel. This is the front panel of the primary array and the secondary array. You have the head shelf, which is your top shelf, and the bottom shelf is an expansion shelf of more disk. So each hard drive you see here is 6 terabytes, and it's got the lights right here, the green. So if one hard drive would go bad, it would turn red. Support would call us, get us a disk within 4 hours, and we could swap it out. This is the back of the enclosures. There's just a controller A, controller B. We have dual controllers for redundancy. Failover, status of the fans and temperature. The TG ports, they're 10 gig fiber ports on each controller for redundancy also. So if one port goes down, there's still a connection up going to the switch, and clients would see no downtime or anything. You have your Ethernet ports, which are used for management and replicate of data between arrays. And then the SAS ports are connected to the expansion, or they connect the expansion shelves. So the primary Nimble array, we're currently only using 93 terabytes of the 184 we have available. So we're at a 50% usage. The secondary Nimble array, which is at our secondary data center, it's currently using 90 terabytes there of the 184. So we're about 49% usage there. So using a total of 184 terabytes of the 368 terabytes that we have available. So we definitely have room for growth in the future for upgrades and any storage needs. So with all this data that the Nimble can hold, we have, of course, data protection. We have something called snapshots. So you can create a snapshot schedule, or you can, like this one, it takes a snapshot every week at 6 o'clock on Friday, and then you can also every day at 5 p.m. So you can hold these snapshots for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where it just depends on what the application is. So the data protection is using snapshots, and it replicates the data between the primary array and the secondary array. So if we have a failure or something at our primary site, we can log into our secondary site, pull up a snapshot, and spin up a server probably within a couple minutes and have very minimal downtime. So the other storage unit we have is called a Cumulo. It's mainly for unstructured data. Currently, we're only using 80 terabytes of this, which is a 9% usage, and we have 892 terabytes of a total available usage. The data is encrypted. It's protected by software-based AES 256-bit encryption. Data protected from a 3-drive failure or 1-node failure at a time. And using 9% of that. And this is what the Cumulo looks like. It has a row of disk in front, and there's clips that you can snap down and pull out, and there's more disk behind that. And each one of these hard drive disks are around 14 terabytes apiece, and we have a total of 5 nodes with this. This is an integrated analytics. It kind of shows you the usage currently on the Cumulo. This is the main root folder. GovMVR, these are for all of the cameras that you see throughout the Cabarrus County and the libraries, at the government center, at DSS, the new courthouse. All that data is stored on the Cumulo. We did I worked with Jarrett and moved all his video data off of an old file share server, and it's currently on the Cumulo, which I think made him pretty happy at the time. He's able to carve out a lot of space for him, and it seems to be a lot faster. Okay, so the old storage we had 2 storage centers. They were estimated about 190 terabytes each, 380 terabytes total. We were always hanging around 80-85% of capacity use, so we didn't have a lot of room for growth, and the hardware we were using was nearing end of life. So the new HP eNimble and Cumulo, each array is 184 terabytes, so we have a total of 360 terabytes total. We're only about around 50% capacity. The Cumulo has 5 nodes totaling 892 terabytes, currently using 9% of the capacity, so we definitely have a lot of space for future growth there. I just kind of want to go over who we all support, and also Ryan Moore, who'll be speaking later. The network team, they support a lot of these too. Cabarrus County Schools, we maintain the storage for them, the service infrastructure at both primary and secondary data centers. Kannapolis City Schools, we also fully maintain and support both their virtual and physical server environment along with providing all storage support needs. Cabarrus Partnership for Children, we recently migrated them off of Google Docs and Gmail to Office 365. We consisted of creating Office 365 accounts and setting up Azure AD Sync from the cloud to local Active Directory. And we support all their client devices such as laptops, desktops, and printers. We're currently working with Cabarrus Arts Council. We're migrating the users to Office 365, setting up their accounts, email, OneDrive, and SharePoint. Support the volunteer fire departments, their MCTs, which are the mobile communication terminals. They use those for getting displaying and dispatching of the incidents from our 911 center, so they can see what calls they get dispatched to. Support EMS stations, libraries, DHS, of course, the government center, and numerous remote sites throughout the county. Also, the Cabarrus County Sheriff's Department, which does 24-hour support for all their, emergency services needs, a lot of their public safety software. Also, we also support Kannapolis Police Department and Concord Police Department. We maintain and provide a 24-hour support for the 911 emergency phone system, which is Intrado. And this next slide kind of shows you just a low-level layout of the 911 systems that we support throughout the county. We have Cabarrus 911, which we have 10 workstations here, which is it's called a Viper, is the server rack. And also at our backup site, we have 6 stations there. And then you have Concord. They have a link going to our main Viper at the primary site and a link going to the backup site at the DSS. And we have Kannapolis 911. They have a connection going to both sites also. So if one site goes down or one link goes down, there's redundancy and failover there. And also Union County, they have 7 positions at our main SAP for failover need or, for training purposes. And then Rowan County has 6 positions at our backup site for failover there too. And I think that's about it. And I will turn it back over to Debbie.
Okay, thank you, Jason. And as you can see, those guys are busy, and that's not all the things they do. They do a lot of break fix as well. Next, we're going to hear from Ryan Ward. We hired Ryan away from Ticketmaster about 13 years ago to be a network technician. He was the 2nd employee of our network team. And he's kind of grown up with Cabarrus County IT as well. The network team he now supervises has grown to a team of 5. And Ryan, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you very much, Debbie. I'm Ryan with the Network and Communications team. Been a county employee for going on 13 years now, and wanted to introduce some of the guys on my team that are behind the scenes. Kevin is our system admin who's been with the county for 6 years now.
Hey, Ryan, this is Commissioner Kiger. I can't hear you, so I'm not sure if there's something wrong with your volume.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that I could hear.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for the heads up. I'm Ryan with the network team. I've been with the county for going on 13 years now. Just want to introduce some of the guys on my team that are behind the scenes. Kevin is one of our systems administrators who's been with the county for 6 years now. Travis has been on my team for 2 years now as a wireless engineer and 19 years with the sheriff's office. Jason is a network engineer and has been with us for 5 years now. And Josh is a network tech who's been here for 2 years now. We're kind of a homegrown network team. All of us, 3 of us started off on help desk and moved up. And as Debbie mentioned, I started off as a network tech 13 years ago from Ticketmaster and moved my way up to be the network supervisor for this team. My team pretty much is sometimes referred to as the traffic cops and the builders of the data highways that Cabarrus County employees use every day for their jobs and for the citizens to access county information. We manage voice and data for 9 schools and the district office for KCS. All of the Cabarrus County departments, the Sheriff's Office, the Cabarrus Arts Council, and the Cabarrus County Schools Ed Center traverses our network to uplink with their CCS internal network. CPD and KPD share resources with our Sheriff's Department over the network, and both cities access resources for building permitting and GIS data. We maintain the network access as well for all the EMS stations as well. Our state of NACS. So this is kind of all the hardware I listed out of what the network and communications team maintains. Between all those partners that I listed, we support 24 PBXs, which is a hardware appliance in various data centers and schools that allow for inbound and outbound calling to be made to whomever our dial tone provider is. Our access points are for wireless connectivity, which are in every classroom and all department county buildings. On average, we have 450 county to 400 and to 4,000 plus KCS users on our wireless networks on a given day. The 211 data switches support the wired network for our servers, those access points, phones, office computers, 911 stations, or the 850 cameras that are spread about. We passed 16.3 petabytes of data across our network last year. And for all of that hardware, we maintained a 99.9% uptime. DHS last year had our most inbound calls at 185,289. Project lists for last year, for 2020. So we kind of started off 2020 with courthouse construction. We worked with the state's data and voice providers to relocate all of that building connectivity to our alternate path coming into the courthouse. We scheduled both of those entities for an after-hours connection flip onto this new path. They've been running on this alternate path for going on a year now, and we've, knock on wood, had no issues. We worked to relocate guardian ad litem and juvenile justice to their new locations, as well as recable the office space to their needs. All fiber cabling was removed from the demo conduit, and part of that fiber we pulled from the courthouse annex was able to be reused for connectivity into the new IMS building. Our PBX virtualization project. As I mentioned, we maintain 24 of these throughout the network. But 3 of these core PBXs for the county are coming online as virtualized servers. That will give us some better backups, redundancy for failover, and allow us to deploy newer phones to county departments. ITS and the county manager's office have been swapped over already and are piloting that new voice system. We have to touch every phone in the county and recreate the extension in our new system. So with the scale of this upgrade, it's going to continue well into 2021. Our access points. We deploy newer access points around the county to keep up with advancements in Wi-Fi technology. For the libraries, we were able to give more coverage to areas that were lacking, including outdoor APs to accommodate for buildings when they were closed. Even though the building was closed due to COVID, access to the internet was not for the public. We were also passed that information on to Cabarrus County Schools and to Kannapolis City Schools for student access for after hours for the libraries. This heat map on the display shows, it gives us some insight into building coverage and where signal could be lacking in certain buildings. Our COVID response. So with everything else that was going on in 2020, COVID was not on our list. And luckily, we were in a trial period with a voice hosting company. And what that means is instead of having those 23 PBXs on our county premises, the voice calling is taking place in the cloud provider system. And the dial tone and voice call for us is delivered over the internet. With the provider's soft phone running on our laptops, users are able to be remote due to COVID and can answer and make calls as if they were sitting at their desk. To do that, we had to completely reconfigure how our PBXs run now for receiving dial tone. So we created 23 department ring groups. We had to reconfigure department main numbers, re-record new greetings, re-record different call queues, and reroute those calls out of our network into the cloud provider's network. We created 150 users within this new soft phone extensions with new ring group assignments. And as of last year, we took 41,223 calls had been answered by county employees that were remote due to COVID. With the help of the systems team and our help desk guys, we were able to deploy 150 plus soft phone applications onto all of these laptops. Fiber projects. So with everything we had going on with COVID, we also had continuing on with our project rollout for the year. So with all things COVID, we were able to roll out fiber connectivity for these locations in a partnership with the city. The new IMS building fiber came online. The co-op and board of elections had carrier circuits with monthly costs that we will get back as a return on investment in a few years, and we were able to upgrade their connection speed. Mount Pleasant Tower Fiber gave us redundancy for our radio network with tower-to-tower failover via the microwaves. Our fiber connectivity to those towers opens up wireless possibilities for the future. My team, along with Kevin Mooseman from IMS and Trey on our help desk, are now certified fiber installers. With the passing of the exam this summer, as our county fiber infrastructure grows, the need to be able to troubleshoot and repair fiber in the field is going to be needed. Also this year, 2020, we rolled out new cameras. We hardened our physical security around the county with more card reader access and camera locations. This view is of the courthouse construction from a newly added exterior camera. Our Sheriff Motorola project. This was a project, years of meetings for us in IT and Sheriff's Department and Motorola. With the upgrade to the Ethernet, new hardware needed to be deployed, including 9 new routers, new dishes and lines on the towers. With the upgrade, we gained redundant microwave links for the radios and also backup fiber connectivity to the head end for Motorola and for the Sheriff's Office. Our KCS 2020 projects. We deployed 115 new access points between KMS and A.L. Brown classrooms. We deployed 30 new battery backups for our data switches to support those access points and student connectivity. With the installation of the Kannapolis City core switch that we put in, it allowed us to segment our network, putting our firewall in between Cabarrus County government and Kannapolis City schools. So that allows us to threat monitor and control traffic better between our two networks. With the KCS firewall upgrade we increased their internet connection to 3 gigs with the future capability to go to 10 gigs as the district grows. So coming 2021, we're asking for a few new position requests. We have a security tech. We always talk about network redundancy and always trying to find an alternate path. Well, we also need employee redundancy. This new position allows for cross-training for the physical security side of my team. Kevin is doing a good job maintaining these systems as they've grown, and we've tried to share that load, but this new position would be designated for learning those day-to-day duties of the jail control system, the camera system, audio video support, and will put us in place to be ready for technology support when the new courthouse comes online. The network administrator position. This would be a new position in between our network tech and our network engineer. It would give us further possibility for advancement for the network tech and will allow us to be more proactive instead of reactive for troubleshooting any of our network issues. It will add for some more human redundancy for our 24-hour support we provide to all of our partners that we're responsible for. Some of the highlights for the coming projects of 2021. We're looking for, with Teams, we are testing more calling features from within Teams to give another application for remote users to be able to make and receive calls as if they were at their desk. Our SIP migration, we're going to be changing the way our dial tone is delivered to us from Windstream. We're on a current legacy copper network, but we're going to be adding, moving toward a fiber connected IP-based calling of our dial tone. Our firewalls are approaching end of life, and to continue with some of the network segmentation for KPD and our Logan systems, we're going to be needing an upgrade of those firewalls. We have ongoing EMS and courthouse construction meetings. We're planning for the next phase of connectivity for those buildings. We have wireless upgrades for both the county and KCS, which is receiving 175 new access points for classroom upgrades. So we're always trying to stay up to date with advancements in Wi-Fi by making sure our laptops have the best highway to connect to. Also for Kannapolis City Schools, we're going to be we had already an MCNC security audit. So we will be taking that report and taking care of any vulnerabilities that are shown. We have an IP camera deployment as well for Kannapolis City Schools and a renovation to the McKnight pre-K school that we'll be involved with. We have the Motorola refresh for radios and mobile. As Van mentioned earlier during his time, the Axon camera deployment has been happening. Travis has been working hard to get that configuration template built for provisioning all of those modems. Each patrol car modem requires a unique configuration to make all those new devices work together in the patrol car. And with that list of everything that I gave for 2021, if you think I need another position other than these two, I will gladly take it. And also for any other unexpected requests for 2021. COVID was not on our list for 2020, and I'm very much positive something else is going to pop up for 2021 that we'll have to adapt to and figure out and make work. So I appreciate your time. I would like to thank all my guys on the network and communications team for supporting all the day-to-day trouble tickets and, planning for the future and everything that these guys do. Kevin, Travis, Jason, and Josh, I couldn't do it without you. I appreciate all the effort that you guys put into making the NACS team the best that it can be. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're muted, Debbie.
Yep, you're muted.
Sorry, I echo the thanks to these guys and thank Ryan and Jason for this presentation. This is what you see when you pull the curtain back in Oz. This is what's going on behind the curtain, and you guys don't often have an opportunity to see all the hard work these guys are doing, and I'm glad we had the opportunity to share that with you. And if you have any questions, I'm sure that Ryan or Jason would be glad to take them.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? That was certainly an impressive presentation. It makes me a little bit tired to look at the list of things that you're accomplishing, and I only wish that I understood more of what you were talking about. But it's nice when it all works, whether I understand it or not. So thank you for that presentation very much. Does that conclude that, Debbie?
That's it for now.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, we move now to discussion items for action at our regular meeting in 2 weeks. First up is item 4.1 from Active Living and Parks, lease for Cox Mill School Park property to the City of Concord. We're happy to have Londa Strong and Sheila Lowry.
the last couple of years that we've discussed the youth athletic program and the school parks, the school parks at the elementary schools, and trying to transition that over to the municipalities. So with that said, here's our first good step in that the city of Concord has purchased some property that's in between Cox Mill Elementary School and the property that is owned by Cabarrus County Soil and Water District out off of Cox Mill School Road. The city has been working with Cox Mill, the Odell Youth Athletic Association that utilizes Cox Mill, and trying to join their programs together. So that would make it even better with them building a park in between and having access there. We've worked with the school system, Tim Louder, in trying to make the access road going into the new park maybe something that the elementary school could also use. They've worked with Daniel McClellan and Kelly Sifford on the conservation easement area. And everybody thinks that this is a really good plan. City of Concord is wanting to lease that property from the county. They would maintain the school park site beginning, I believe it's October. If Sheila Lowry is on here, she sent me a note and said that her mic was not working. Yes. Are you working now, Sheila?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. Sheila, do you want to go into detail on what you all have proposed with the school maintenance as well as with youth athletics?
Beginning actually at September 1st, we would take over all of the maintenance of the facility, which includes the utility payment for the lights, maintaining the bathroom, maintaining the fields, and all the mowing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Do you have anything else that you want to add just in general about timeline, park, anything like that, Sheila?
We have the potential for a great partnership with Odell, who currently uses the field. And as we develop the park that's going to be adjacent to the school, this will just expand the park and allow amenities in the Northwest for the citizens of Concord and for the county residents that are located in that area.
And you all have taken this to council and has been approved, is that correct?
That is correct. Council has approved this, and with the approval from the Board of Commissioners tonight, it'll allow the city to move forward and completing the agreement with Odell for a partnership, and then potentially a partnership future with the county to allow access to the conservation easement for environmental education for the county residents and the city of Concord residents.
Thank you. So that's our agenda item, is to lease that to the city of Concord. So if anybody has any questions, please ask now.
Londa, this is Lynn, and since I am on the commission's liaison to the soil and water, I've been out to that property there that we're speaking about, and that's an excellent location, you know, for a city park. And the thing that excites me, I think more than anything, is that it joins the property that the soil and water has the conservation easement on, and you know, the right-of-way that we have back there now is a very limited right-of-way. It goes by a couple residential homes, and that those folks wasn't too interested in selling that property, so we ended up getting the back part of it back on the part that's actually on the water back there. I can't remember the name of that creek that it's on. You probably remember it, but anyway.
Clark Creek.
What is it?
Clark Creek.
Yeah, that's it, Sheila. It's to Clark Creek. And like I say, we wanted to put some type of an educational facility back there for students at some point. But I think one of the drawbacks on that has been the access to it. And so by the city collaborating with the county on this particular project, I think it'll be most beneficial for both soil and water and city parks, and with the school that's out there now, that park just all being one big area. And so as for me, I'm very excited about it and glad to see that the city, you know, still once again collaborates with us to make things better for our citizens in Cabarrus County at a lower cost. Thank you, Londa and Sheila. Thank you both.
Thank you. And you're exactly right. The access is a huge issue for that conservation easement right now. And this would, what they've talked about would make it much easier to get school groups or just the general public in there to enjoy that.
Okay, any other questions for Londa or Sheila?
Mr. Chairman, it sounded like Sheila was looking for a motion for us to take action on this tonight. Is that right? Or this will be part of our normal business? It's on the agenda for 2 weeks from now. I believe I saw that.
Yes,
Or
it will be
taking action tonight.
No, sir, we can wait until your meeting on the 15th.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? I think this is a great example, as was mentioned before, of collaboration of a number of different groups. This is going to be a real asset to a very fast growing area of the county. And we're so thankful that Soil and Water has created that conservation area there that provides for environmental education. Just a lot of pluses on this, and certainly the partnership with the City of Concord makes it all work out. So thank you all for all the different pieces and parts that you have all worked on to engineer that. And now I think, Londa, you have the next item, sale of fixed asset. Need a budget amendment?
Yes, sir. We were able to sell some of our older treadmills and pieces of equipment through Gov Deals. And we were in replacing it, some of the equipment with a little more high tech. It's cost a little bit more than we had actually anticipated, and we would like to utilize that $4,225.33 to purchase the new equipment, replacement equipment.
Okay, any questions for Londa on that item? All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Next up is item 4.3, and that is appointments to boards and committees. And you all have a copy of all those requests before you, as a number of different areas this time. Did anybody have any questions or comments on any of those? If not, then those, of course, will remain on our consent agenda and will be approved at our regular meeting as well. Next up is item 4.4. Central Area Interlocal Agreement Modification, and Jonathan Marshall will talk with us about that.
These items are getting fairly familiar to you. It is another ad hoc modification to the Central Area Plan Agreement. This again is just water service being supplied to a property, public water service. It's an area where which would cause more wholesale growth. This is just an individual lot off Katrina Avenue where we've agreed to we propose to have a modification to the agreement.
Okay, any questions for Jonathan on this item? Okay, thank you very much. Next up is item 4.5, Child Care Facility Partnership, and Rodney Harris will be talking with us about that one.
Good evening. I wanted to start just with a brief summary of sort of where we've gone over the past year with this particular project. So as you recall, All Saints Episcopal Church approached the county about space at their facility for a child care center. back in March of 2020. Since that time, they have done a full-scale renovation to bring that facility up to code. And then at the same time, we have had county meetings with All Saints as well as Rowan Cabarrus Community College about a potential partnership. In the meantime, All Saints has selected Marizetta Carey as their preferred provider to lease the space to. Marizetta Carey is a nonprofit out of Charlotte, North Carolina. They operate a facility off of Beatties Ford Road. It's a 5-star center, and they would operate this facility for up to 79 children. So as we've talked about, our participation in this particular partnership would accomplish 3 primary goals. The first is that this would be an employer-based childcare option for our employees. And so as proposed, 40 of the 79 slots at this facility would be reserved for children of county employees. This is similar to the Mary Frances Wall Center, where the goal would be to keep this affordable for our employees that enroll their children there. And the average tuition for them would be about $132 per week. The maximum annual cost for this is roughly $271,000 per year. That is the maximum cost. So if we have less than 40 children enrolled, we would pay less than that. Given the limited number of spots, we are having ongoing conversations with HR about how to administer the application and selection process for this enrollment if we decide to move forward. The second piece that this helps with is it is an investment that the county will help to add 39 additional spaces for childcare in Cabarrus County. As you know, before the pandemic, we had a shortage of available high-quality childcare spots, and that has been worsened by the pandemic. And so our facilitating the creation of this center will help to address those childcare deserts that exist within Cabarrus County. The contribution on this front is a one-time contribution. It's a grant to help with playground equipment, classroom materials, classroom furniture, etc. And then the last component of this agreement is Rowan Cabarrus Community College, which I mentioned earlier. So they envision using this for real-world practical experience for their students across multiple disciplines. So that's early childhood education, but that's also nurses, physical therapists, and others that can use this facility for real-world experience. So given all of these benefits, staff does recommend moving forward with this partnership. And so this agenda item would authorize the county manager to negotiate and enter into an agreement with Marizetta Carey and allow the use of contingency funds that were set aside back in August 2020 for this purpose. Any agreement would renew annually based on funding and the board's willingness to continue to provide this employee benefit. Rich and our new deputy county attorney, David Goldberg, have reviewed a preliminary agreement and have started the process of drafting it in case the board approves of moving forward with this item. And then the last point I want to make, I think is important, is that currently available funding, which is about $675,000, would fund this initiative through the end of next fiscal year. So we would not need to appropriate any new funds until FY23 at the earliest. So I can take any questions that you might have.
So Rodney, just to expand on that, the startup is now. So we'll spend the startup money, and then the rest of the money will take us through the end of June of 2022. Is that what you just said?
Correct.
Okay,
yes,
that's what I wanted to make sure I understood that. And how soon would they start buying and putting in the playground equipment?
They would intend to open the facility in April, so it would be between now and then.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, commissioners, additional questions for Rodney? Just a couple of comments that I am very much in favor of this initiative. I think that this provides a great opportunity for the county, a public-private partnership. As a matter of fact, on this one, we've got a number of those. And when we talk about a number of issues in our community, frequently we talk about the involvement of the faith-based community in addressing some of the issues that we face. I think this is a great example of All Saints stepping up and making this space available to address a need that we and most other counties in the state have as well. When we talk about early childhood education, I guess at the Commissioner Poole, I think originally was one that initiated or suggested our early childhood education task force. That group has met for several years now and looked at a number of these issues. I think that we've all heard in the past the importance of birth to age 5 educational opportunities for children. And certainly a lot of those come through these child care centers. There has been a shortage of those in the county, as we've heard during our needs assessment with the Cabarrus Health Alliance over the past year. They've talked about the lack of available spaces and the lack of affordability for a lot of folks in our community. There's been quite a bit of discussion from our Partnership for Children about the difficulty of getting employees to work in these facilities. I think the partnership with Rowan Cabarrus Community College will help us to address that by training some of these folks and getting them involved in that field and having this 5-star example for them to see how things should be operated. Some of the intangibles that I think are sometimes difficult for us to quantify on a project like this includes these kids that we're providing a high quality education to while they're in these daycare facilities are going to bring benefits back to Cabarrus County, not only by improving those families and giving those families additional opportunities, but I think we're going to see that these kids that go through this program they're not going to be using our services at our human services agencies in the future. Hopefully they will not be occupying some of those slots in our jail and being involved with our juvenile justice system. These are some of the kids that we hope we don't see in front of our some of our juvenile crime prevention council programs. So there's when you look at the big picture of the issues that we face in our community, I think this is a good start at helping to address some of those. And I think some of the unknowns that as we come off of this pandemic and people, as more people are vaccinated and get back to their regular working jobs, some of those daycare slots that were available prior to the pandemic may not exist anymore. So we had a shortage before, and now we're subject to even a greater one. So I think there are a lot of pluses. I believe that you mentioned that this is a year-to-year contract, which gives us an opportunity to regroup and if it's not working the way that we think it should be, then that gives us the opportunity to go back and take a second look at it. Plus, I think it's an important benefit for some of our county employees. Of course, we've heard about the Wall Center with the school system and the opportunity that provides to teachers for daycare for some of their children. We see a lot of private businesses that provide daycare opportunities for their employees in order to be able to recruit and retain those folks. and our county employees, we compete with the private sector for those employees. And so the things that we can do to help them to be able to stay with us and give us an opportunity to retain those is important. So I see a lot of pluses across the board. But the floor is still open for anybody else to make comments or ask any questions that you might have. Okay, hearing none, thank you for that presentation. And we will move now to item 4.6, which is emergency rental assistance grant. And we'll also have Rodney Harris and Karen Calhoun talking with us about that item.
So on this particular item, I want to say at the outset, we are asking for some board action this evening. So I wanted to set that up front. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program made available $25 billion to assist households that are unable to pay rent and utilities due to the pandemic. As a local government with more than 200,000 residents, the county was eligible to apply, and Karen submitted our application on January 12th. On January 20th, we found out that we were awarded $6,528,517.40. So a little over $6.5 million was awarded to Cabarrus County for this program. So I did want to walk through some of the eligibility aspects of this because I think it's important. And so first, it is for renters. So it is for rental assistance. It is for utilities, but not things like cellular phones or telecommunications. We're talking about gas, heat, water, those types of utilities. To be eligible for assistance, at least one or more individuals must meet 3 criteria. So the first is that they qualify for unemployment or have experienced a reduction in household income, incurred significant costs, or experienced a financial hardship due to COVID-19. The second is that they demonstrate a risk of experiencing homelessness or housing instability. And then finally, they have to have a household income at or below 80% of the area median income. So for example, a family of 4 would qualify if their household income fell below $66,800. If deemed eligible, households may receive up to 12 months of assistance, plus an additional 3 months if the county determines extra months are needed to ensure housing stability. Assistance must be provided to reduce an eligible household's past due rent or utilities before the county can provide assistance for future payments. So county staff have been working diligently over the past 2 weeks to prepare for rolling out this program. As you can imagine, given the amount of money, it is a significant program to roll out. So this has truly been an all-hands-on effort, with IT taking the lead at developing the application that will be the intake of the applications we get from the public and or landlords. We need staffing to help determine eligibility, to go through those applications, to process the vendor registrations, and then ultimately to make the payments to those that are deemed eligible. And then we have to have a robust communication and outreach plan to make sure this is communicated well out into the community. So the goal is to begin accepting applications as soon as possible, but we're confident that we can do that no later than the end of this month. So with that context, we are requesting the board suspend the rules of procedure tonight to accept this grant award and the associated budget amendment.
Thank you, Rodney. That is a tremendous opportunity for folks that are truly suffering out in our community right now due to loss of employment by all the different factors surrounding COVID-19. Kudos to our staff for staying on top of this and filing those applications and getting those funds available for Cabarrus County residents. Hopefully media is following this meeting tonight, and they will help us and getting that word out. I think that's going to be welcome news to a lot of folks out in the community. Commissioners, do you have questions for Rodney on this item?
Rodney, this is Lynn. Just one question. Can you clarify the income criteria? I was under the understanding that I think you said you'd have to have 66,000 or less. But now, what's that number based on? Because I was under the understanding that Cabarrus County's medium salary was 41,000. Can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, so the eligibility is 80% of the area median income, and it's based on household size. So the example I gave you was for a 4-person household. It would be 66,800. If it was a 2-person household, it would be less than that.
Okay, any other questions for Rodney?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We suspend the rules.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules to take action on this tonight. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. That motion passes and rules are suspended. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to accept the grant award and to adopt the associated budget amendment.
I moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Honeycutt, a second by Commissioner Shue that we accept the grant award and adopt the associated budget amendment on this emergency rental assistance grant. Is there discussion on the motion?
One more quick question for Rodney. So the staff time that we will obviously have in administering this, is any of that reimbursable?
So of the 6.5 million roughly, about 670,000 can be used for administrative overhead, like staffing that's needed to administer this.
Okay.
Very good. Any further questions or discussion?
Just one quick question, Rodney. You said, did this apply to back rent as well?
It does. We can go all the way back to March of 2020.
March of 2020. Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure I understood. Okay, thank you.
Right. And if I understood you correctly, the back rent has to be paid first.
Correct.
Which I'm sure will be of great benefit to a lot of landlords that have been trying to work with their tenants during this period. Any other questions or comments?
Just one more question, Rodney. Is there a cap on how much a family or person could receive of the grant money?
There is not a cap other than what this board may set.
Okay.
One more quick question too, Mr. Chairman, before we vote on this. It's not that significant, but just for the viewing audience, when will these funds become available and the application process begin, Rodney?
Yeah, so we hope no later than the end of the month for the application process. We're hoping sooner, but we are confident we can have it up and running before the end of February. The funds have actually been deposited in our account as of the 20th. So we already have the funds in hand.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say no. That motion passes, and we look forward to getting those funds in people's hands as quickly as possible. Thank you for your efforts as well as Karen and others that have been involved in the process. Okay, we move now to item 4.7. This is regarding purchase of property for the Northeast Cabarrus Public Safety Communications Tower, and Jonathan Marshall will talk with us about that one.
And I will note up front that Travis McGee, who's already been mentioned tonight in the innovation report, is with us and can answer any technical questions. As you're aware, the county owns and operates 2 public safety communication towers, one off 2427 and one in Mount Pleasant High School. And then those are networked with other regional towers and other regional communication apparatus to form the larger communication network that we have. But with that said, Travis McGee has monitored and studied our communications and calls, particularly in sheriff vehicles, and found that there's poor call quality and dropped calls and even just complete lack of communication in the far northeastern part of the county. So a couple of years ago, we identified the need to buy some property to construct another public safety communication tower. We have gone through quite a few sites, but have identified and negotiated a parcel off of Gold Hill Road East near the intersection with Shortcut Road. And the owner has agreed to the price. So this is a contract coming before you to purchase that property. We will go through a due diligence period and do our final studies to make sure that the communication tower will work as planned there, as well as check site-specific issues, but feel in all our initial studies that this is an excellent site. So we're asking you to approve this contract to purchase the property, and it is below what we had budgeted for this project.
Very good. Any questions for Jonathan?
No, I'm just happy to know that he thought we had the capability to ask a technical question on this.
I would agree with that.
Well, we'll see tomorrow how well Travis says I summarized the call issues, but I've seen quite a few maps that he's presented me, so I hope I understand it.
Great. Any other questions or comments on this item? Thank you, Jonathan. And Jonathan also has the next item, utility easements at Roberta Road Middle School.
And of course, this is the new middle school under construction at near the intersection of Cochran Road and Roberta Road. As you're aware, as we go through these construction projects, we are presented with easements that the commissioners, as the property owners, must approve. I mean, in this particular case, it's a Duke Energy easement, but you know, we'll have water, potentially sewer, stormwater, as well as possibly telecommunications and others that come before you. All are standard during the construction process. So while we're presenting this Duke Energy easement to you tonight, the motion itself is more general. It will allow you, if you would choose to accept that motion, to approve the utility easements necessary for this construction. Anything that's out of the ordinary that we would not see at any other school and just doesn't seem typical for construction, we would bring back to you. But this general motion allows these to come before you just one time, and then of course they would be reviewed each time by our legal staff, and then the county manager could sign them.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions on this item for Jonathan? I'd certainly appreciate the wording of that action that does eliminate the need to come back for these very standard things over and over again. So appreciate that efficiency. Okay, we move now to item 4.9 from Planning and Development, the 2020-2021 Home Program Budget Amendment and Project Ordinance. We are delighted to have Kelly Sifford with us for this item.
Thank you very much. So this is a standard item, actually. This time last year, we did a public hearing. As you recall, we were going to participate with Concord in the downtown project, and then they decided that that format wasn't going to work. So we did another public hearing later, I think it was around March, and agreed to construct a home with the city of Concord in a partnership project, similar to this partnership we did with Kannapolis where we constructed the apartments. So all this is our contract finally came in last month. So this is just setting up our funds in order to do that project. And I also, in the next item, will have a public hearing to kind of round out this project, but that's all this is. It's a simple placement of those funds.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly. Questions for Kelly, commissioners? Sometimes when we talk about these home project funds, for example, the apartment, senior apartment in Kannapolis, it seems like we never see those things happen, but after several years of talking about that, it's nice to see that project in Kannapolis completed and occupied, and it is, I think, truly an asset up there. So I think that's a good example to show the benefits of this. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, well, Kelly has our next item also, the community development programs for 21-22, and setting a public hearing.
So I'll go ahead and address the first part, and that is a public hearing to further amend the plans that we had for last year. With the funding, we got more than we expected, and it's not going to cost the full amount of those funds to construct that house with Concord. And we did decide to proceed with that project because houses are still selling, as we all know. So we do need to amend that plan, though, to include a single-family rehab job. We don't have funds really to do anything else. So we're going to take care of a single-family rehab and then look at some more rehab. When Concord sells that home, those funds are going to come back to us. I've been working with Rich Cook on an agreement with Concord for this all to work out, but the funds will come back to us, and they're required to go back into the program. And so we'll look at some more rehab at that point. And so we'll need a public hearing for that part. And the other part is that this is a reauthorization of our weatherization program, our heating and air repair and replacement program, our home improvement. Those are all grants that we've received for a number of years now. The weatherization and the heating and air don't have a fiscal match, but we do require some funding as part of the annual budget towards salaries to support those. The Housing and Home Improvement Program is a 10% match, and as part of that larger housing or HCCBG grant that provides a number of services, including transportation, congregate meals, and things like that. The Duke Energy and the Blue Cross Blue Shields program, those are private programs that Duke did notify us that they intend to continue with that program and open it up even a little further this year for some other activities. And that is no match. That's just us. Part of it's producing units and them funding those, and then they're also rebating those to us. So they're paid for through the weatherization grant, and then Duke is rebating money to us that they want us to expand the program with. So that's what we do with put those funds back into it. They're also allowing us some standalone projects this year. So that will give us another opportunity to replace some heat and air units as standalone projects through Duke. So we're very excited about that. And the Blue Cross Blue Shield, if they allow us, if they extend their program, we would like to have permission to continue that. They've allowed us up to $2,500 per household that is weatherization qualified to do some health and safety type item. So we fixed some wiring on some houses. We've added ventilation. We've done just different things. We can even do steps and wheelchair ramps and things with those funds. So those are very useful funds to us as well. Do you have any questions?
Kelly, these projects, the weatherization projects, the rehab projects, and several different categories you talked about, are those applications that you have on file from folks throughout the year, or exactly how do you acquire the list of properties that would be eligible for that?
We take applications year round for the programs. We do advertise sometimes when we start having a little less number of clients on the list. We usually the heating air program we spend out. We're probably spent out now on the heating and air portion. They did give us a little bit through CARES this year, another 3 units. So we've got a small amount there. So the Duke money is really crucial to fill in that gap. But we do take applications all the time. You can call our office at 704-920-2141, and we'll get you to staff who can assist you. We like to go ahead and kind of screen rather than put the applications out there, because there are, if you've had service since about 15 years ago, they won't allow us to serve again. So we kind of want to screen so we don't have people filling out applications that's kind of wasting their time. So once we kind of talk to them and figure out, that they're probably are potentially eligible at all, we go ahead and have them fill out their applications. And even if they appear to be on the borderline as far as income, we encourage them to go ahead and fill out the application, because different things count as income for different grant programs. So then we can take it and kind of analyze it and see, are there things that are counting or not counting that should be. So that's how we do that. And I would like to also mention, I should have mentioned it earlier, we have had obviously some issues this year with service. We have a small division that does that. We've had exposures to COVID, and then of course we're going into homes of fragile people in a lot of cases. So we've had to be careful where we go and when we go and how we go. So it has put a little delay on some of our services. So we're trying our best to catch up now as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions for Kelly on this item? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And of course, this, I think this public hearing is included on our regular agenda that we will approve shortly. So that will be in place. Okay, next up is item 4.11, Property and Liability Internal Service Fund. Move funds from property and liability insurance to the general fund. Kyle Billifer will talk with us about that one.
Good evening again. Property and Liability Internal Service Fund. This is to move funds from property and liability insurance internal service to basically fund the general fund. And this all stems from a 2020 Ford Sheriff Interceptor SUV that while responding to an emergency traffic call. The vehicle was totaled. It actually went off the road through a fence, through a mailbox, and several aerial turns, and has been destroyed. So we need to move money from our liability service fund over to our general fund so we can replace that vehicle. The funds are available in the property and liability fund to appropriate to replace the vehicle, and we'll be able to piggyback on the actual purchase order that we've already submitted for all this year's replacement vehicles for the Sheriff's Department. So I'm requesting the action, and the motion is to approve the related budget amendment to appropriate the funds from the Property and Liability Internal Service Fund to the general fund to replace the Sheriff's vehicle. The second that the attachment is the actual budget amendment that was prepared by Finance, and the value is $42,000. Sir, you're muted.
Thank you. Any questions for Kyle on this item? All right. Thank you. We move now to item 4.12 from Tax Administration, advertisement of 2020 delinquent taxes. And David Thrift is with us to talk about that.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. So North Carolina General Statute 105-369 requires that I report to you the amount of unpaid taxes for the current fiscal year that are liens on real property. So for the 2020 real property taxes that are unpaid, as of this report, we had $12,982,823. We subtract from those accounts anything that's in bankruptcy and under property tax commission appeals. So that was $85,000, giving us the total lien on real property of $12,897,823. So this statute also requires that upon receipt of this report, that the board must order the tax collector to advertise those tax liens. So I would request that the advertisement date be set for March 28th, 2021. The reason we wait until March to do those advertisements in the end of March is that after this order is given, it allows us an opportunity to send another notice to anybody that has unpaid taxes, notifying them of what their balance is, that they are delinquent, and giving them an opportunity to pay that to avoid advertisement. So this will provide another opportunity for us to reach out, make contact, and hopefully collect more of those taxes before the advertising takes place. So our requested action then is a motion to approve the report for 2020 outstanding tax balances that are a lien on real property, and to order the tax collector to advertise these liens in the Independent Tribune on Sunday, March 28th, 2020. I appreciate your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you, David. Do you know right off how that amount compares with other years? Is this about in line, or has it increased this year, or can you speak to that?
Sure. So we're in the process of kind of analyzing where we are in terms of comparison to other years. From a straight dollar amount, this is a higher dollar amount than we typically have at this point. That's to be expected for two reasons. One is we know that there's going to be some impact from COVID-19. We're hoping that that's not a very large impact. The other part of that is that the tax bills, based on the revaluation, our real estate tax bills were higher in 2020, so the dollar amount is higher. I can tell you the number of accounts outstanding at this point are fairly similar. We have just over 8,000 accounts that are outstanding. I think last year's report we had just over 7,000 accounts. So we're not too far off in number of accounts, but there's still a significant amount of work to be done. We're still receiving funds coming in, so that this report has actually been whittled down even in the last couple of days. So we'll continue to do that. We're hoping by the time we get to advertising that we're in a consistent point with where we've been in previous years.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for David on this item? Well, I will say, going back to one of Debbie Brannon's earlier innovation reports, when she informed us about the new payment options that were available, I found that extremely convenient to go online to pay my tax bill. I think the method that I chose cost me $1. I believe it's what it was. So that certainly was probably less than the cost of the stamp and the trip to the post office. So it really worked out extremely well. I hope other people are enjoying and taking advantage of that. Okay, any other questions? All right, we'll move to item 4.13. Waiver of occupancy tax penalty, and Rodney Harris will talk with us about that.
So we received a request on December 14th of 2020 to waive the penalty for an occupancy tax late payment from Econo Lodge OYO, totaling $271.26. The payment was late due to an administrative error. And so we've had our county attorney, our tax administrator, and county staff review this, and it seems to be a legitimate oversight that occurred. And so statute provides this board the legal authority to waive this penalty, and that's what we're asking for the next formal meeting.
Okay, any questions for Rodney on this item? Thank you, sir. And so we move now to the approval of our regular meeting agenda. You all have a copy of that before you. To the best of my knowledge, we have not made any adjustments or changes so far. So does anybody have any requests or comments on the regular agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda and to schedule the necessary public hearing that we've discussed tonight.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kiger. I think that second was Commissioner Strang to approve the regular meeting agenda. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. That motion passes. And there being no need of a closed session tonight, at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn until our regular meeting in 2 weeks, which will be on, which I don't have that date in front of me. But anyway, it'll be our regular meeting in 2 weeks.
It'd be the 15th.
15th.
The 15th, 2 weeks.
15th of February.
Mm-hmm.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn? I think Commissioner Honeycutt's trying, but she's muted.
Yeah, unmuted now. Moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion by Commissioner Honeycutt, a second by Commissioner Strang to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, no. And we stand adjourned. I thank our television audience for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing everyone at 6:30 on February the 15th. Thank you.
Thank you.